Cosmere can be a confusing place.
From allomancy to surge binding, there's a lot to look out for.
We're your hosts and escorts to the realms. I'm Griff.
And I'm Alex.
And this is the Silverlight Guide to the Cosmere.
Right, hold it up to the microphone so the listeners can see.
Right, of course, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So last episode, last drop,
We talked about the magic of Nalthis.
the magic of Nalthis.
Breath.
Biochromatic breath.
Yes, biochromatic breath specifically.
Biochromatic. Which sounds like you're gearing up to start rap lyrics. Biochromatic. Pseudonym ecstatic.
I feel like you could
stop.
probably work biochromatic into rap pretty easily.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that would rhyme with it. Anyway, this one we will be talking about not beat for beat the story.
No.
But how we feel about the story in general.
Warbreaker, the musical.
Yes. Okay, I kind of killed for that.
Could you imagine, this would be sick. You could have a motif for when people say, what is it? My life to yours, my breath become yours.
Yeah.
And so you could underlay it with whatever other characters' themes happening at the same time.
Yes.
And you just make sure it works. So get Lin-Manuel Miranda on
Of course.
immediately. We need Warbreaker the musical.
But here's what I really want, and I know we're going to probably have to cut this out.
We're not cutting it.
I mean, it's just going to be at the beginning. Way of Kings the musical? Could you imagine?
Oh, man.
Could you imagine Sylphrena with her own solo?
Oh,
Kaladin?
Yes.
I mean, Kaladin's would have to be a depressive piece of shit, song, at least at the beginning.
Right. Oh, yes. I mean, yeah. So, The Way of Kings, the musical. A musical in 17 parts.
God, yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? Fuck.
Let's see. The cursed child was 2 nights, right? You had to come back for 2 days.
Right.
So this would be, you'd have to just cut out a week.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, though, the fact is, could you imagine Dalinar's, power ballad type song?
Right. Yeah. And then...
Elokar, oh god, that'd be fucking depressing. Elokar, this whole wishing of wanting to be a good king and everything.
I want to be where the people are.
Yeah, but then of course you know what's fucking coming in not Words of Radiance. Oathbringer. You know what's coming in Oathbringer.
Right. And so Moash enters and all the music is real low and it becomes a jazz tap dance.
Yes.
Where Moash is doing a very, very rhythmic almost the song from Chicago where all the women are singing about why they ended up in prison. So he's doing something like that. He had it coming. And you could parallel. So you would initially in the Way of Kings musical do that, but it would be Bridge 4 telling the reasons why they got into right, and then Moash reprises it, and it becomes Moash's theme, but he does it in a much darker way before he does one of the 2 deaths I'll never forgive Sanderson for.
Elokar was one. What's the other one?
Palm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fair.
No, that, I mean, in one sense, yeah, cool. Good for her. She got what she wanted, but which was being away from Harmony's influence, right?
Right.
But boy, Jesus. But Warbreaker the musical, it would be Les Miserables.
I mean, effectively, yeah.
There would definitely be Vivenna with the same from Les Miserables when Anne Hathaway in the movie cuts her hair.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, exactly.
I mean, we've talked about this.
I referenced that, which is...
Yeah. Oops, we peaked.
No, but I mean, it would be that, although slightly different.
You could model Vivenna and what's the main character? What's Serene?
What is her name?
Siri? It's one of them.
I think that was probably my issue with
Elantris and Warbreaker, that they had such similar names.
no, more the fucking Warbreaker. I found Vivenna's story in that far more compelling than Ciri, yeah.
Ciri?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Ciri's story was much more, let's explain the world.
Right.
And have you go through... I mean, it had a really important plot point with Cicebron.
Right. No, I'm not disagreeing
For sure.
with that.
But Vivenna's story, I mean, Vivenna was a more powerful story, not even more powerful story, but a more interesting story.
Yeah, it was a more interesting story. I'm not going to say the series was pointless by any means.
Right.
I just didn't find it nearly as compelling or memorable as Vivenna's.
Sure.
Because although I liked what's it? Who's the Returned?
Vasher?
Is that
no Light Song the Peaceful?
Yeah, Light Song the Peaceful.
No, Light Song the Brave. God.
Whatever. Anyway, regardless, I liked his part of the story.
Oh yes, his was very entertaining. Light Song the
Bold.
Light Song the Bold. Light Song the Bold.
Yeah, I think it was Light Song the Bold.
Light Song the Bold. Light Song the Bold. And we have gotten ahead of ourselves.
A little bit.
A little bit.
So let's
Life
walk
updates.
it back a little bit. Yeah. Life updates.
Let's see. This episode should be dropping in November.
So we will probably already be at Dragonsteel Con.
I think this should drop on the 15th.
Right. So actually, yeah. So we will be at Dragonsteel Con by the time this episode drops.
Come see us if you're listening to us, and are somehow at the convention as well.
Yes. We would love to meet fans.
Maybe we should...
It would probably be slightly terrifying to meet fans, and we may cut this part out, but we would also love to meet fans.
Yeah, for sure. Forget that Scadrial exists today. It's about Warbreaker the musical. And... No, so life updates. I don't know what future Alex has done, because we're recording this in July.
Yeah, we are recording this in July.
Oops, we did it again.
We may want to start recording life updates right before the episode drops.
I believe we've talked about that, and then I forgot.
I did too, but let's start doing that.
Yeah, so we'll keep this because it's entertaining.
Right.
The sole person it might be entertaining to.
Yes, but at the same time, maybe from this point forward, let's not. Yeah. Let's do Life and Sanderson updates.
The nearest Sunday we can to
the drop of the episode.
When the base drops.
Yes. And that way we can keep it current with what's actually happening rather than months before.
Whoa. So yeah, Sanderson Con is happening right now. This is how it feels to be a content producer that hasn't strategized, although we just strategized in front of your face.
I mean, we are learning.
We are learning. We're always learning. Yes. Why? Because we're always reading books.
Yes, exactly.
Go check out our other podcast, Various Books for Obvious Reasons.
Which is going to be releasing very soon. And...
Yes. Well, by this time it should be out.
Yeah, I mean, yes, by this time we will already have at least, hopefully, a few episodes out.
Yeah.
Question.
Those will drop on opposite weeks.
We might have to cut this out as well.
Okay.
What's our so yeah, are we doing that on the comparative? Are we doing on those on the counterpart weeks?
8th and the 22nd.
Yeah.
Of each month. I mean, maybe that would be. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably. No. I mean, we might drop them.
I mean, that would at least ensure that even on February we would get all the episodes out.
Yeah.
Because February only has 28 days, but
yeah,
we wouldn't be relying on the 8th and the 31st or anything like that.
Right. 8th and 22nd. So 1st, 8th, 15th, 22nd of each month we have content coming out. Sure.
If we have Devin editing V4,
right,
then we don't have to worry that much about it. We just have to. I mean, we have to record content, obviously, but
right.
but we're not going to worry about posting it or editing it.
Well, I imagine if Devin agrees to continue editing, I'll do one of the podcasts and he'd do the other.
That's what I'm saying. But that would take some of the pressure off, so we can still
that's true.
produce them on schedule.
Yeah. Here we are. Right. By now, according to the laws of time progression, see, this is coming out in November, so Brandon Sanderson should have announced that he's written 15 books. Just kidding. Just kidding. No. Go get your copies of The Lost Metal. We'll do we'll probably do an episode solely on it. Spoiler free. We'll probably push that for December.
Okay.
December 1st or 15th.
Do we really want to do a spoiler free? Do you think we'll be able to keep to that?
Wait, spoiler free? I mean, all spoilers on.
Okay. I was about to say
spoilers go. No spoilers. Free, not spoiler free.
Yeah, I was about to say that seems like that would be very difficult for us to do.
It's gonna be an auto show's worth of spoilers.
Yeah, no, we're gonna be raving about this book. So
hopefully, or we're gonna be raging at the book, depending on what part of the alphabet we're on that day.
I really, really, really hope. I think the only reason I would rage, is if Wayne died.
Okay.
Or if Marcy dies.
Okay.
Those would probably be the only reasons I would rage. I wouldn't rage if Waxilium dies.
That's fair.
I would be sad, but I kind of see it coming for his character. So, like...
If Waxilium dies, it will be because Harmony wants to use him as Odium wants to use Dalinar.
Ooh, that could be interesting.
He's crafted a sword.
He has.
Specifically said to both Wax and to Hoyd.
Yeah.
But we'll
find out.
We'll do a whole episode on that, either the 1st or 15th of December. If you have questions you want us to speculate on, please send it to guide to the Cosmere at gmail.com.
Yes.
After you've read the book, or if you want to be like, oh my god, we read the book, this is so good, we'll just say, yeah, people like it. They sent us emails saying they liked it, which...
I mean, that's fine. That's... We
read emails.
Yes, we do.
Just like books.
Also, again, cut this part.
Okay.
But we need to record an outro with our social medias attached.
That's true.
So
we should just make a stock outro.
That's what I'm saying.
It feels weird to say journey before destination or journey before everything anytime. Maybe something else. Just so clunky. Maybe I'll just choose one of them. Journey before going to the movies. Anyways.
I'm thinking, so here's what we do. I'm thinking we do our normal outro.
Okay.
That we record live.
Oh, that we record live each episode.
And then we have a stock outro, including our social medias.
That's fair. We could do that.
So, anyway, regardless. Back on to Nalthis.
Yes. So, Warbreaker the musical, you could use streamers. You could use people wearing black, and then have streamers for the color.
Yeah, I agree. For the biochromatic breath.
Something like that.
How would you do the graying of, I guess, lights?
You could definitely do lights. You could do certain objects. You could have them be static, or when they're placed down, they have a certain thing, and then something under it moves and drops, and then it appears to have changed colors.
Right. That's what I was like.
Lots of descriptions. You could definitely, so Warbreaker was written as an experiment.
Okay.
And the experiment was not a scientific hypothesis one.
Right.
Brandon Sanderson wanted to show how he writes books.
Okay.
So every rough edit, every version is online.
Okay.
And people could beta read at any time. And he would have notes about what he was doing, where and why. And I don't know how well it's kept up since I think it came out in 2009.
Right.
But essentially, it wasn't. He published it as a hardback, or as a book, but you could read, and you can still read it for free online.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, you can go download the entire text.
Fascinating.
Which, for a future episode, hopefully, I will have had quite a bit of time to work on an AI that will do generative text based on Warbreaker. Right. So far, it's not worked out well, but
well, I think that's part of machine learning is finding out why it's not working and adjusting.
Yeah, so
because I mean, like, well, I sent you that bear related one as kind of an example of where machine learning has gotten to.
Right. Right. So I'd like to leverage some of those new tools that are coming out to do it, but I haven't had the time or the resources.
Right.
But hopefully soon. So I'd like to get that rolling. So
17 ways to tell that kitty is a type of cat, none of which work.
Yeah. So here we are. So, and I think you can. He has notes about why he's changed what he did.
Okay.
So there's a lot of interesting
look at his mindset.
Yeah. And his publishers were like, "No, we're gonna lose money," and they didn't lose money. So
that's here's the thing, and this is not even an issue I have with capitalism.
No.
It's the reason that I have with the traditional viewpoint is that publishers, business people in general, don't seem to understand that if a thing is there and exists to support somebody that you enjoy the work of, you are going to do it whether or not you can get it for free.
Yes.
Most people only get it for free. I'm not going to say there aren't some that will just ride the coattails and get it for free, because there absolutely will be. But a lot of people will buy the thing because they want to support the person whose work they enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, honestly, if fucking do we have a name for the 5th Stormlight Archives yet?
No.
Okay.
He has to work in I think we touched on this. He trying to do the palindrome.
Right.
But then it's also Stormlight Archives are books inside the books.
Books, yeah.
And he hasn't written that yet.
But anyway, regardless, take Lost Metal, for example.
Sure.
If Lost Metal came out for free, would I experience it for free? Probably.
Right.
At least initially, insofar as I could probably get the free version faster than I could get the paid version.
Right.
But would I absolutely go out and buy it? Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely would. Like, because I want to support Brandon Sanderson.
That's fair.
And I love his work, and I want him to keep eating and being alive, so...
Yes. Though, from what he has plenty of money.
Oh, I know. I mean, he is... And I mean, after that Kickstarter, goddamn.
Right. Although most of that's going back into the Kickstarter.
I know, but still.
Which, by the time this episode drops, hopefully the White Sands Omnibus will be out. The latest update on that, because we can't seem to stick on topic, is that the printer has acquired the papers and the everything they need. They just need to hire specific people for. Apparently, the slipcase is very difficult for the editions. It requires a very specific piece of machinery. Very specific piece of machinery, as well as trained people to run it. So as soon as that happens,
they will.
Right. So,
but I mean, also we'll probably do an episode, or well, assuming after we get done with the lore of all the planets, we start on a read.
Yeah.
I want to do, because I'm sure it has been covered by other people, and I realize that chronological is not the best way to read Brandon Sanderson. I am fully aware of that. I have an entire list of a reading order for new readers who have not read any of his other stuff.
Which, if you'd like, please email us.
Yes,
if you've gotten to this and you don't and you haven't read most of the Cosmere books, hit us up. and we'd like to ask you some questions.
I would like to ask you some questions. I also do have a reading order list if you are looking for that. Also, if people want what I believe is the chronological order reading.
Would you believe? Versus what would be what has been said?
Well, no,
Or
more
like-
the fact of, like, some things have not been confirmed exactly where they fall in the timeline.
Sure.
So
Yeah, you could, yeah.
yeah, so I have what I believe to be a chronological order of the reading, but there is some stuff that has not been canonically confirmed yet
Sure.
to fall within a specific order.
Okay.
But anyway, I would like to do a chronological reading. I think that it is something that no other podcast, as far as I'm aware, has attempted thus far. And while it may not be the best way to read Brandon Sanderson as a new reader, we are obviously not new readers.
Right.
And so I think a chronological reading could be very interesting.
I could, especially if we pace it out to align with the coming of Stormlight 5.
Also, I don't know where the new 4 books are going to lay in that whole
Right.
shit. So that could affect things.
Right. Yeah, we'll have episodes on the new books the month after they come out.
Yes, but also, like, when it comes to chronological reading, I don't know if we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I mean, these episodes we have enough of to last us hopefully well into the year that the 4 books are coming out.
Yeah.
So what I am hoping,
At least in March.
what I'm hoping is that we will get a good enough idea of whether or not any of the books fall within the early Cosmere timeline. Because so far as I'm aware, White Sand comes first.
Yes.
Thus far.
Yep.
So unless any of the books predate or fall directly after White Sand, we should be okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyway.
See what happens.
So, Nalthis.
Back to Warbreaker the musical.
Yes. So, we start with Ciri.
Yeah.
And she
Vote
is...
is one of the Siri Day. Sorry.
Fine. So we start with Ciri going into... there's a name for the city, isn't there?
There sure is.
Do either of us remember what it is?
The main city the story takes place in?
Yes.
I mean, it's Tatalier.
Is it Tatalier?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. You're right.
Spelled T''T
Yes.
ELIR.
Yes. So Tatalier, Ciri is going to Tatalier to be married to the... They have a title for him.
The
don't
God
they?
King.
The God King, yes.
Sisebron.
Sisebron, yes. So to be married to the God King Sisebron to
Fulfill a peace treaty.
Yeah, a peace treaty.
Between Tatalier and whatever the land that is on and where Ciri is from,
Right.
which departed from that land up into the mountains, and they've kind of been like, rah, we're the rightful kings, we have the royal locks.
Right.
And then the gods are like, but we're the gods, we're the returned, haha.
I still wonder what the royal locks are. Like, we know what that means.
We're just going to intersperse far out theories and/or theories. So there have been what I believe are several unreliable narrators, which is a trope,
Yes.
right? Where the author is telling us something through a specific person and it is simply not true, though they lead us to believe it's true.
Yeah.
Right. So, quickly, between the Returned and the Heralds, we have been told that there is no way that they can have children. I believe this is a lie.
Ah, okay.
And I believe it will be through the exact same method. And for the Royal Locks, something specifically with that method gives them that magic. I have thought a lot about why the Royal Locks exist in a meta kind of way.
Right.
And all I really draw upon is if you go watch Sanderson's lectures on writing stories,
Right.
a book is not written off of one idea.
No.
It is written off of many ideas that are cohesive.
Yes.
So he had this idea, what if there was magic hair that could tell a person's emotions unless they are very good at keeping it under wraps?
Right.
And he managed to work that into Warbreaker.
Makes sense, yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if we go back to the Warbreaker notes, or if he has said at some point that it was kind of retroactively tossed in.
Right.
But the Royal Locks are supposedly, because that line is descended from a return.
Right. So I think that they will. I'm hoping it will definitely play more of a role in book 2 of Warbreaker, if that ever comes
If that
out.
happens.
Yes.
Which, here's Alex talking more. He has said he wanted to write.
Right.
And I think we talked about this last time, because we talked about the magic. So it would be Nightblood, but it may just turn into a novella.
Yes. Even then, I'd still like to get more info on the Royal Locks,
right.
Why they exist, the whole point of them.
Right.
Because clearly there's something there. There's a magic there that is not just biochromatic breath.
No, and it does seem to work, because they drain it leaves them feeling hungry.
Right.
Which is similar to how Lift uses Light Life.
Yes.
Life Light,
yes.
Nightlight.
Miss Marvel.
Yeah. So Lifelite replayer. Lifelite replays.
I mean, it does. You're not wrong.
Yeah, if Stormlight the musical, if that's not the little, if Lift doesn't come out, if they don't buy the rights to that jingle. Anyways, so there's that aspect. So we talked about the Returned in the last, in the magic in Exordium Nalthis. Is cool magic system. This leads to a societal structure where there are returned in the Palace of the Gods that they cannot leave, and once a week
they are fed breath.
They are fed breath by people willing to give up their single breath.
Is it a person, or is it... How many breaths do they need per week?
They need one.
One. So it is one person per week that gives them a breath.
Right. And then Cicebron is special, so he gets 2.
Right.
But he still consumes 1 a week. But
and the other one is stored.
Yeah. Right.
The other one is stored in his collection.
Right. So if they don't get that breath, they die. And so these returned are named two words.
Right.
Light Song, Blush Weaver.
Right.
Mercy Star.
So it is always 2 words and then the and a descriptor.
Right.
Descriptor.
Right. So Light Song the Bold.
Right.
Blush Weaver the... Is it beautiful?
I think so.
We can just look this up. Mercy Star the something else. Yeah. And then at any time they can choose to give up their powerful breath to save somebody from an illness, as we've already discussed.
Yes.
There seems to be some sort of longing in them that pops up occasionally to do this so that they no longer live, because they feel like it's their time, but it wasn't fully explained. We just get a chapter where one of the people that returned as a child is like, I think it's my time to go. Yeah, so
this is kind of annoying. The wiki does have Light Song the Bold listed, but then under Blushweaver it just has Blushweaver.
Can you click into Blushweaver?
No, it's not a link. It's just a...
That's stupid. No, it's not stupid. Hollendren
and Idrian are the 2 countries.
Great.
Hollendren is the one with Tetelier.
Oh, okay.
And then Idrian is the one up in the mountains.
Sure. But the people revere the returned as gods.
Yes.
They have prophetic visions occasionally,
Either in dreams or
through paintings or poetry.
yes.
And so their whole culture is there's the poor that are most
Yes.
likely Idrians that have come and they live in the slums. And then there are the artsy people that send their works of art, or rich people pay to send works of art to the returned to get some sort of feedback so that they can feel fulfilled.
And I will say there's an interesting thing on that, which is if you look at Lightsong's point of view, and I think that this is a very indicative theme that I don't see a lot of books touch on, but this idea that Lightsong is not very comfortable being a religious figure.
Sure.
And I think that it's an interesting point of view because of course they see the returned as gods.
Right.
And we as readers kind of figure out what they actually are, which
Right.
is not gods. I mean, there are definitely beings of investiture, but
Right.
but like it brings up this very unique idea that I think is important, which is not so much that power corrupts, though it absolutely can do that.
Right.
And also the fact that power reveals, which I actually like a little bit more. It's
Sure.
when people have the power to do anything they want to do, you will see what they always wanted to do.
Right.
But I think it's also this idea that sometimes for a lot of people, power is not a comfortable place to be. Not everybody wants to be in power. Even those who enjoy the benefits of power don't necessarily like being in a position where the responsibility of power is something they have to deal with.
That's true.
And I think, like, you see that with Lightsong. Like, he has sent this artwork to, pass judgment upon it, for that judgment to then be returned to the person who made the artwork or the person who commissioned it or whatever. Right. And, I'm sure for Lightsong and possibly for some of the other returns, though we don't see that nearly as much, that must be a very uncomfortable place to be, to know that your whims are going to be taken as somehow more valid than somebody else's.
Right. And so a lot of the gods don't even look at the art.
Right.
Lightsong, Blushweaver tells Lightsong he's one of the only ones that actually does
right
every single time. I don't know if it's every single time, but does it way more than everybody else. I think
right.
They just get their lackeys to do it. It is an interesting take on I don't think I'm a god, or I don't feel comfortable with
with power. Godhood.
Yeah. Warbreaker, I mean, with the breath and the color, supposedly their writing system uses color.
Although, interestingly enough, on that, we do see that Shash is a letter in the Nalthis alphabet as well as the Rosharan alphabet.
Yes, and that has been discussed as a coincidence and not planned. Feels weird, but he said that there's no. It would. I can't remember exactly what the word of Brandon is. There is more contrasting it with Vo, or there's some other religion in Warbreaker that has a Vo at the start of it.
Okay.
That and Vorinism are
connected.
Right. I know.
Okay, I'm not disagreeing with Brandon here. But that's really weird.
Yep.
That there would be Shash.
Because they call it the same thing, but it's different markings. I know. I looked into it once I made that connection.
That
feels weird.
It does feel weird because, especially with how important a role that Shash plays in Rosharan,
yeah,
and Kaladin specifically,
right?
Like it feels weird to me that Shash would not be connected to the Nalthis Shash.
Yep.
But anyway, I mean, that is what it is, I suppose.
It is. Feel free to email us if that was wrong.
Yeah, but...
Mr. or Mrs. or... What's the non-binary?
I don't know if there is specifically a title.
The book I'm listening to, the Fall of Hyperion, so Hyperion and then the Fall of Hyperion, they use M for everybody.
Oh, I think MX is the gender neutral term.
How do you pronounce that?
I don't know.
I'm also reading a book that has XE and XIR as...
Yeah, Zay and Zur are how I've heard it pronounced. Now, whether or not that's the...
Right.
I have a very small pool of people that I have seen refer to it that way.
Sure.
So if the larger community pronounces it a different way, I don't know.
Right. So
I have just heard Zay and Zur.
Right. And in Mandarin, if you transliterate it with an X, it's a sh sound.
Yeah, it's a sh, because actually chi is originally spelled XI.
Sure.
But the X in that, for some reason, is pronounced CH. I don't really quite know why. And I don't know why Chinese translated to English, the CH sound is spelled with an X.
Yeah, I don't know.
It is.
Yeah. One of the CH sounds is... It's weird. Anyways, here we are.
So, we have Ciri, who is supposed to be married to Susep... Or not married to. I think they are married...
Yes.
Very early on.
When she gets there, before even meeting, the... I think it's Blue Fingers.
Yes.
Is like, once the God King decreed it, or said it, or wished it, it was so. So you're married now. Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, so she is supposed to sleep with the God King, and produce a child, quote unquote.
Right.
Which, according to the church, which we find out is not true, I'm just going to say this right off the bat, the God King is the only returned that can have a child.
Right. And if you're listening to this and you're like, ooh, what's Warbreaker about? This is where it really ends being super spoiler free.
Yeah, I mean, we've already spoiler freed a little bit, but
I spoiled, yeah. So,
or we already spoilered a little bit,
right?
But,
so, main plot point here, though, they find a child,
yes,
a newborn baby who is returned. And when that happens, they kill the mom, replace. They have the God King transfer the breath to the child, and then the child is the heir, is the new God King, and is raised up.
So, but they need the God King to sleep, quote unquote, with a woman to keep up the. Now, here's a.
And the God King's tongue is cut out, so he can't talk.
Right.
He can only write.
Here's the problem that I have with one of the points in Warbreaker.
Yeah. He can't even write at the start.
No, he can't. Clearly, Ciri is going to know she isn't pregnant.
Right.
Why, then, did they need her to actually sleep with the God King? Because, like, they were listening every night.
Right.
To know whether or not she did it. Why? If they knew it was a ruse in the first place...
I imagine it's kind of one of those psychological things where most of the people attending them didn't know that was the thing.
Okay.
So the people listening may not know that it's fake and would then tell the news, wholeheartedly believe it, tell other people that it's happening, so on, so that they, there's plausible deniability.
Right. Okay.
I do agree with that. That analysis needs to be, or that needs to be brought up. It's a little contrived to get to the point where it's kind of where we can dismiss it,
because I was confused. Like, what I mean, initially I wasn't confused, but when we got to the end and we figured out the fact that this whole thing was a ruse by the church. The circumstances didn't seem to quite add up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. What else is there? There's Vivenna.
there is Vivenna, and her story is one of rebellion in a way.
Yeah. So
Um,
she's like, I should have been the one to go marry the God King. I've been trained my whole life.
right.
I'm gonna go save Ciri from
Her
this.
terrible life.
Right. Um, and then she gets screwed over by
Well,
Dev.
yeah, she ends up in the city and she is found by two mercenaries
Yes.
that she initially believes are on her side.
Right, because they were with the guy that was playing spy for her father, the king, and Vivenna, the Idrians are prudes, and
Yes.
they worship Astra, and
Yes.
they do not want anything to do with breath or being um, auspicious or any kind of lavishness. They want to be very
They're
down.
almost ascetics.
Yeah. Um, so she does not want. They view breath as sin, essentially.
Yes.
And one of the first things that happens to her is the spy has been poisoned, and is dying.
But she believes he's sick, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
And he passes on his breaths to her.
Also, I found that interesting, and we may have dealt with this in the magic episode, but I still find it interesting, even as a narrative device, is the fact that breath does not have to be consented to be accepted.
Right.
It just needs to be consented to be given, which I find fascinating.
Yeah.
In just a moral and narrative way.
Right. So then, boy, there's a bunch there. I mean, you've read the story, you know what's there.
Right.
I as this was written after Mistborn, I do see more polish.
Yes.
I think the plot points between Vivenna, Vasher, Nightblood, and then Ciri, Light Song, Sisebron, work really well.
Yes.
It's a well-defined story. There aren't a lot of parts where I'm like, this is just dragging on and on.
I will say the only thing I felt about that, and it wasn't even that bad, was Ciri's story. Like,
Sure.
it was a little contrived, or not contrived, it was a little drawn out.
Sure.
I mean, I think it was supposed to be because it was supposed to highlight the idea that she is stuck in isolation.
Right.
She is not able to interact with anybody, really. You know, she is spending her days in boredom.
Right.
Because, like, even stuff like painting or whatever, they talk about how they can get people to do that for her.
Right. And how I thought it was an interesting idea to have a palace where the room you're in becomes what you need it to be.
Oh, yeah, I thought that was fascinating.
You're brought dinner at a dinner table. You're brought all of your clothes. You're brought the tub with hot water.
Yes.
You don't have a specific spot for those, with the God King's chambers being an exception.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. The Lifeless play a pretty important part in the plot.
Yes.
The Lifeless is a cool idea.
Yeah, it is a corpse that is animated by breath and serves the will of the one who animates it.
Right. Super cool.
Yeah.
Good idea.
I like it, and clearly the Lifeless Army is, part of the big finale.
Right.
That goes marching off to attack Idrian.
Yeah, and I thought it was an interesting choice to not show that wrapping up. They go marching off.
Yeah, and then they send the other army, the Guardians or whatever. What are they called? The stone statues?
Great question.
To the wiki.
Which it's alluded to the entire time that there are these statues everywhere. I figured it out. A lot of you probably figured it out as you were reading it. That the statues were somebody's something's phantoms collects phantoms. Collect.
Secret City army of nearly indestructible Dedener lifeless soldiers.
Yeah.
Dedener?
Dedener.
Dedener, lifeless soldiers, yeah.
What was the um something's phantoms?
Oh. I don't remember.
Claude Phantoms.
There we go.
Yeah. Because we find out that Vasher was Claude and Peacebringer the whatever. He was Claude the Usurper, Strife Lover, Peacegiver the Blessed. He had a lot of names.
Yeah.
It turns out that a lot of immortalish people in the Cosmere have many names.
Yes.
So that was really cool. I enjoy how the book ended on him revealing that he's Warbreaker the Peaceful.
Yes.
That was badass.
Yeah, that really was.
Warbreaker is a cool name.
I'll also say I love the fact of how Vasher defeated Denth.
Yes.
By transferring the breath.
To what?
Remember, Warbreaker transfers his breath to Denth, or part of his breath to Denth, which pushes Denth up into
right. And was it him or was it Vivenna that did that?
No, it was him.
Oh yeah, and
he transfers it and then he stabs Denth.
Right, because he's now they get when you get that amount of breaths, you're overwhelmed.
Yeah, with
your
with
senses
the
are sensory overload. I
thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, it really ties into that idea that, like, you have to consent to give the breath, but not to take it.
Right.
And, like, that really plays into that. And I think it's a really fascinating theme.
I agree.
Because, like, with every other magic system in Brandon Sanderson's, you have to actively take it. Like, I mean, you can be fed metal in like, I mean, she's fed aluminum and like told to burn it, but
told to burn it, not forced to burn it.
So. Yeah, I mean, like she can't be physically forced to. She does for reasons, but
because she was facing death, right?
Well, I think it was also somebody else was in danger, weren't they?
At one point, Sazed was.
Anyway, regardless. Anyway, she does burn the aluminum, but like they couldn't reach in and make her burn aluminum. They can just pressure her to do so.
Right.
But and like with the Stormlight, you have to breathe it in.
Yeah.
But yeah, with well, no, I suppose magic is forced upon you in Cell's case. Becoming a Elantrian is not willing.
True.
It happens whether you want it to or not.
But using the Aeon Door to produce effects.
True, that is
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I just found it interesting that like that power imbalance is definitely apparent even in the story, even in the narrative. Nightblood is introduced, which does become important later, or is a character, quote unquote, that is recurring.
Right.
Although I did find an interesting, and I think it was partly the reader, but also like I found an interesting contrast between Nightblood's personality in Warbreaker and Nightblood's personality in is it Words of Radiance where Nightblood first appears, or is it Oathbringer?
It must be Oathbringer because Zeph is defeated at the Battle of Narok before they go to Yurthir. So
the
Oathbringer.
Right. So yeah, I found a very interesting contrast between personalities.
I think it was definitely mostly on the narrator's front. Although it, from what Nightblood has said, um, when Zeth and Lift were on the battlefield, at the Battle of Phelan Field, um, Nightblood mentions that Vivenna let Nightblood know that he was his own individual personality or something like that. So it seems that the growth period between Warbreaker and whenever Nightblood left them in Stormlight Archive, there was some attempt at giving Nightblood
more of a personality.
Yeah, and autonomy.
Yes, and
in terms of thinking, but an agency, yeah. But it's sentient metal, and it doesn't seem to have a good memory in Warbreaker or in Stormlight Archive.
Because it has forgotten many people it has killed.
Yeah, it keeps asking about the person who made it.
Right.
Yeah. But Nightblood is a cool, just a cool thing.
Cool little sword.
We talked about it in a Magic episode at length.
Right.
What else is there about Warbreaker?
I don't know if there's a whole lot else to say, because I think I like Vivenna's story because she goes from being very powerful and prudish to, I mean, being literally a gutter rat for a while,
right,
and kind of losing a lot of that prudishness. And I think, I mean, like, both Ciri and Vivenna have stories that are about losing their prudishness.
Yeah, there's a lot of character development.
Yes. I mean, I think that's most of the story is actually character development.
Yeah.
Like, the plot is there, don't get me wrong, but it's seeing how the two main characters of Vivenna and Ciri develop is I think the the integral part of the story.
Yeah. And Lightsong, I mean, playing it backwards, I imagine Sanderson came up with the idea that so Sabron wouldn't have a tongue, so that he couldn't use commands. But then you need a way to restore the tongue. Okay,
right.
Let's give the returned a way to
heal.
Right, and so now we need a character that isn't just going to Deus Ex Machina heal the God King.
Right.
So
right.
he actively worked to make Lightsong an integral part of the enjoyability of Warbreaker. And I really like Lightsong's character arc.
Yes, I do as well.
And the idea that an accountant could choose to be a hero.
Yes.
There are moments like that in a lot of books that just really tug at the heartstrings. They're really, really quite poignant. So I'm glad that was there. What a great way to do that kind of trope with a character you're not expecting that from. Why could he juggle? Anyways, so I don't know if there's much more on Warbreaker.
I don't really think there is. It's a rather short book, and it's a good story, but it doesn't. And I think we find the same thing with Elantris, which is the fact that we are seeing the same story from two different points of view.
Yeah.
Where with Elantris it's three. I'm not going to say they don't all add their own valuable information, but the timeline is kind of cut in half with two characters, or in Elantris' case, it's cut into thirds.
Right.
So while both viewpoints are absolutely necessary in covering different events, it still does mean that there's not as much timeline-wise there.
Yeah, with meat to it.
Yes. So I think that's our episode on Nalthis.
Yeah.
As I said, I really hope we get a second because I'd like to see a little bit more advancement on the magic system and other things that were mentioned, but
yeah, I'd like to see how endowment acts, if at all. I mean, beyond. I mean, we get some letters to Hoyd in the Stormlight Archives, but
but
good stuff.
Indeed. So, until next time, don't panic, World Hoppers.
Yeah. Life before death.
Strength before weakness.
Weakness before strength. Nope. I'm just kidding. I'm just messing. Life Before Death, Strength Before Weakness, and Journey Before Marvel Phase 6.
All right.
Yep.
That was our episode.
Yeah, that's right. Stop.
Yes.
The music you hear is Part 3, The Spirit, from Zavadilla's The Music of Elantris, produced by B-Roll Records. Available now on Apple Music, Spotify, and most music providers.
If you like what you hear and you want others to hear it as well, please leave a rate and review. It really helps us get more listeners.